Hey guys, my name's Aaron from SegaTrain.com, also AaronSegaPT.com. Come to talk to you today about sleep. Now we're going to cover a few things in regards to sleep. We're going to talk about, why sleep is so important, what determines high quality sleep, and how you can get this high quality sleep. Now firstly, we need to talk about why it's so important. Now we're talking healing properties, we're talking memory, we're talking having that focus throughout the day so that you can go through your tasks without feeling sloppy, without feeling fatigued, and actually having a good happy mood, that sort of thing. So sleep has to do with all those things. It also has to do with muscle recovery, release of growth hormone, cognitive functioning, and motor skill improvement. Okay, so different stages of sleep have to do with that, including the deep stages and the REM sleep. So let's really briefly cover the stages of sleep. So you start off in stage one, where you might start dozing, you might start getting those little spasms, the ones where you feel like you're falling off a cliff. Stage two is where you sort of actually go into sleep. So stage one can go, for about 10 to 20 minutes, you go into stage two. Then there's stage 3 and 4, which is where you're in deep sleep. So this is the part where, growth hormone is released to repair and build muscle tissue. It's where you actually get that recovery. Your body recovers, your heart rate slows down, your blood pressure slows down, your breathing slows down. And then you got REM. So what happens? You go stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, then it goes back down to stage 3, stage 2, and then you go into a stage of REM sleep. So this is the stage where you dream, and this part, along with the deep stages of sleep, has a lot of importance for, the body. Okay, so let's talk about what good quality sleep involves. Okay, so good quality sleep is where you stay mostly solidly asleep for the whole entire time. Your sleep is generally between 7.5 to 8.5 hours straight. Other things include, no restlessness, no waking up, that sort of thing. No interference from noise or light. So what this means is if you get 7.5 to 8.5 hour block. Now, some people can get away with 6.5 to 7, that sort of thing, but the general consensus, a lot of people think that they can, but generally speaking, research has shown if you're not getting at least 7.5 hours of sleep, or 7 to 7.5 hours of sleep at least, you're probably not getting enough sleep, and you're probably not functioning at a level, at your highest capable level. So what this means for you is you need that solid 7.5 at least block of sleep, because what happens is as you go into the stages of sleep, you'll go through several cycles, usually 4 to 5 cycles of going through the stages and REM sleep. And one entire cycle takes about 90 minutes. So in order to get the benefits of that REM sleep and the entire benefits of the release of growth hormone and testosterone for males and certain other hormones throughout the body, you need that full block of solid sleep. Now, I'm guilty of this sometimes, and I'm sure a lot of people are. You'll wake up a few times throughout the night, you might need to go to the loo, that sort of thing. Now, we need to try to reduce restlessness and waking up throughout your sleep, because that disrupts those sleep cycles. So how do you do that? Well, there's plenty of things you can do to make your sleep more high quality, without having to resort to sleeping pills, that sort of stuff, which has its own issues. And some people like to use alcohol, some people like to use marijuana. these all have their issues that aren't as beneficial as trying to naturally improve your sleep through these ways. So number one, darken your room as much as possible. Now I as a PT have to sleep during the day sometimes to catch up on sleep. So what I do is I actually have cloth sort of barriers over all of my windows, and I've taped it up so no sunlight can come into my room, or very, very little sunlight comes into my room. Now, research has shown that if the darker your room, the better quality your sleep is going to be. Any sunlight coming through of any kind, or artificial light, we're talking in the room, we're talking, mobile phone light, even the little recharger light on the mobile phone, we're talking TVs on standby, that sort of stuff. Any sort of artificial light or real sunlight will affect your sleep in a negative way. So make your room as dark as possible, and I go as far as to blacking out the whole thing, putting things under the doors, all that stuff, so no light can come through. So important. It's crazy how much that alone will affect how well you sleep. Now, another thing that's very important is temperature. Now, generally speaking, research has shown that the best sleeping temperature is around about anywhere between 18 to 22 degrees Celsius. So a little bit cooler, that helps your body sleep, and it helps you, when you're warm, you're more likely to wake up. Due to feeling uncomfortable more than anything. Okay. Another big thing, avoiding caffeine after around 2 o'clock. Now, it takes the body about 6 or so hours, depending on your tolerance, to get rid of caffeine from the body. Now, caffeine's going to disrupt your ability to get to sleep, okay, and your restlessness during sleep. So it's best to avoid caffeine after 2 o'clock just to be safe. Now, there's going to be days where you're on a deadline or something like that, so you'll have to drink caffeine, but as best as possible, reduce your caffeine intake from 2 o'clock. Now, that includes, chocolate. That includes Coke, all energy drinks, of course, coffee, of course, even tea to some extent. Certain teas have, a reasonable amount of caffeine in them. So just be wary, very, very wary of that, because it will affect your ability to get to sleep. Alcohol is another big one. So alcohol actually messes around with your stages of sleep and can disrupt the cycle a little bit. So it takes about 3 hours for a small amount of alcohol to get completely through the system, depending on your tolerance once again. So it's highly recommended to not consume alcohol 3 hours prior to sleeping, because it will disrupt your sleep cycles. Nicotine is another one. Now, I know there's smokers out there, but it's actually nicotine cravings and withdrawals that can wake you up during your sleep. So ironically, people who use patches during the night probably won't experience restlessness during their sleep to the extent of people who are, quitting smoking, or smokers who don't use patches, stuff like that. So people who smoke, quit. For one, that's I've got a video on that. I quit smoking many years ago now. But number two, be wary that nicotine withdrawals affect your sleep, and actually nicotine itself is a stimulant. So, interesting fact. Electronics, you have to limit your electronic use before going to sleep, because what happens is, most electronics, iPads, phones, computers, and TVs, stuff like that, they emit blue spectrum light. So this blue spectrum light is what the body uses to detect whether it's sunny or not. So what you're doing is exposing your body to artificial sunlight in a way, which prevents the release of a chemical called melatonin. Now, melatonin is, as the sun goes down, melatonin increases in the body, and at a certain level, that's where you feel sleepy and you go to bed. So watching, watching TV or on your phone just before bedtime is going to prevent this melatonin release, which is, there's an ibis, which thought someone was going to whack me, which is going to prevent your ability to get to sleep, and it's going to prevent your ability to sleep well, okay? So what can you do? A couple of hours before bed, turn off all the lights in the house and don't use electronic equipment. That's going to be, that's going to be hard for some people. There's another thing you can do, and I actually have these in my house, and they're fucking weird. They're really weird looking glasses. I forget what they're called. I think they're blue blockers or something like that. Pretty much, they're these red safety glasses that block out blue spectrum light and keep it as a red spectrum. So a red spectrum is what a fire emits, and that doesn't affect your sleep. We've sort of evolved to have campfires, but it blocks out blue spectrum light, so you can use your phones and stuff like that if you want to. I also use on my computer a program called Flux, which takes away the blue spectrum light at certain times. So at night time, it'll remove the blue spectrum. So guys, there are a few really good tips that you can use to improve your sleep quality without having to resort to other drugs. Now, I might do another video on sleeping aids and stuff like that. They're not ideal. You can also take certain supplements that help, but before going to those lengths, it's probably better to try to improve your sleep this way. So there's a few tips for you. I'll probably put out some other videos later on, how to use napping, how to use sleeping aids, how to use, prescription drugs. Well, you got to get prescribed those to use them as sleeping aids, but I'll cover a bit more about sleep as time goes on. So if you have any questions, flick me an email, admin@segatrain.com. I'm always willing to answer them. If you have any questions about other videos, stuff like that, or you want me to do other videos, let me know. In the meantime, sleep well. I'll see you in the gym.